voice, and I should say at first that speaking at East End Temple is quite unlike speaking at any other venue that I can imagine. My first taste of school was the Sunday nursery school on the roof of the Labor Temple on 14th Street and 2nd Avenue. I remember East End Temple before either Helene or Leonard was president, which I gather is a true proof of age now in these parts. During the year when I studied Hebrew after Saturday services with Rabbi Solov, I attended services every week, and the voice of Cantor Henry Korn became ingrained in my mind as the sound of a cantor. And I have to confess that any other cantor I've heard since in my life, there's an automatic comparison to Cantor Korn. I don't know what he would have made of the music tonight. He was a very Germanic, operatic tenor, a very powerful voice. But he was a very important memory to me. My parents were very early, if not founding members of East End Temple. This place was extremely important to them. I'm one of the three hosts of All Things Considered from National Public Radio. As Rabbi Ellison said, I've been doing this for almost longer than I can remember. Every day as we talk from NPR in Washington through to public radio stations all around the country, we estimate that a couple of million people are tuned in at any moment. Maybe 4 or 5 million in the course of the program will pass by. And sitting in the studio, I look at the engineer or the director through the glass. I don't get to actually see the people listening. So it's always a very nice thing, a nice event to actually get to look at the listeners and to see what you look like. And I'm always struck by the fact that you don't look at all like what I thought you would look like. I thought you would all be much taller and more. The last time that I spoke from the Bima at East End Temple, it was about an intelligence dispute between those who had seen the enemy and concluded they were giants and it wasn't worth proceeding, and the minority report which said, no, they're not giants, we should go ahead. That was my Torah portion. And it occurred to me that a good starting point in talking about life in Washington 10 months into the Obama presidency and the Democratic era, and then about a little bit about public radio, and then to take your questions, which will probably be more interesting than my ideas. I could begin by saying about Washington, as Joshua and Caleb said, we don't think there are giants there. The city is not peopled by superhumans, but rather by very human people who are capable of good things and success, and also of some mistakes as well. I'd like to begin by telling you about what's on the horizon for the next couple of months. As I was taking stock of what I would talk about, it occurred to me that all of the coming events in what we now speak of as the Greater Middle East, or some policy wonks speak of as the Greater Middle East, are actually of colossal importance, and decisions will be made in the coming months that will have enormous consequences. Starting with a decision that's being made these days in the White House about Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, there are now about 68,000 US troops. There's a proposal from the commanding general, who was the man picked for the job by President Obama, to send over quite a few more, perhaps 40,000 more. All of that is part of what they call a population-based counterinsurgency strategy, where the US would, instead of just chasing the Taliban out of some town and then moving out of the Taliban to come back, protecting the Afghan people from attack, which would require a lot more forces than are currently there. The way General McChrystal, President Obama's picked to run the thing, put it, the Afghan forces aren't ready to do this for themselves, so they need some breathing space of 18 months, 2 years, and more US forces could plug the gap while the Afghans get up to speed. President Obama has taken a very long time in weighing this recommendation, as you know, and last week I thought on our program, when Ambassador Susan Rice was on, she let drop a wonderful word. I think otherwise she was perfectly uninformative in the way that members of administrations are when they're interviewed, and they manage in the course of 5 minutes to reveal absolutely nothing that you didn't know before. But she did refer to these, what you would have thought would be these deliberations, these discussions within the administration as these debates. There's some big argument going on within the Obama White House, and this week that was really confirmed by the release of the U.S. ambassador's view that it's not worth sending over 40,000 more troops. What's obviously complicated everything is that the election of President Karzai was an embarrassment. It was rife with fraud, and many people who've been in Afghanistan to work there doubt that we have what is referred to as a credible partner. There are some fairly extreme options on the table, or at least they've been discussed. Vice President Biden is associated with one, which would be, I don't think so much in terms of counterinsurgency as counterterrorism. We chased Al-Qaeda out of Afghanistan with very few people, with lots of local allies, and with air power. Now we have more pilotless drones. Keep your eye on Al-Qaeda, push them out of the country, and start drawing down troops from Afghanistan. No one is betting on that option, I might add, in the White House. But at least it's an alternative that's being discussed. And the fact that the discussions or debates, as Ambassador Rice said, have been going on for so long is an indication that this is being taken quite seriously. It'll be a bit of an embarrassment if more troops are not sent, because the president ran on the idea that this was the neglected war that we should have built up, and he also got rid of the commanding general and replaced him with General McChrystal. So there would be some serious political backpedaling if he were not to send over more forces. One of the arguments that's made is we shouldn't care so much about Afghanistan. It's Pakistan we should worry about. That's where Al-Qaeda is. And with Pakistan, we have one of the strangest relationships with any country in the world. They are people who hold the U.S. in remarkably little esteem, low esteem. We're anathema to them. They've been very sluggish in combating Islamist terrorists within their own borders. And to give an example of how strange this relationship is, their ambassador to Washington, Hussein Haqqani, who's a very interesting guy. Hussein Haqqani is very close to the Bhuttos, and Benazir's husband is now the president. Haqqani tells the story of being a young madrasa student in Pakistan, a young budding Islamist who went to the U.S. library because it had air conditioning. And the only place that you could get out of the heat was at the U.S. library. And there was seduced by reading, of all things, the National Review. From reading the publication of William F. Buckley, Haqqani became entranced with the United States. What kind of wonderful country was this that could produce the National Review? Then he moved, he said he went a little bit left, he read the New Republic as well. But he became a tremendous Americanophile and a great advocate of, among other things, libraries that we might fund so that young Pakistanis could get a glimpse of what life in the United States might be like and what a connection to the modern Western world might be like. So Hussein was very excited about coming on All Things Considered on a historic day in U.S.-Pakistani relations a few weeks ago, when the Senate passed the Kerry-Lugar bill. This is John Kerry and Richard Lugar of Indiana, his Republican counterpart, the senior Foreign Relations Committee members, created a bill that you would think would be a high point of U.S.-Pakistani friendship, giving the Pakistanis $7.5 billion over 5 years. And as Hussein would be the first one to say, it wasn't to a military government. We usually help the Pakistanis when the army takes over and give them money, but this was to a civilian, to an elected government. And it would go for libraries and schools and civil, not military, helping develop civil society. And in the course of passing it, two things were either, well, one was stripped out, which was a free trade zone near the border with Afghanistan. And there was reason that that's something you can't just have the Congress pass by acclamation. You can't do it as part of another bill. It would have to go through separately. And the State Department was required to certify periodically that Pakistan was doing its best to fight against jihadist militias within its borders. Those two facts, that provision on the lack of the free trade zone, infuriated the Pakistanis and made the Kerry-Lugar bill a negative symbol of U.S.-Pakistani relations, a point of protest. Hussein, the ambassador, was forced to change lobbyists and can the guy who worked out this bill, and he was clearly stunned that the achievement of his year in Washington to get this great bill through was regarded as a disastrous insult to the Pakistani